Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 News. Fred Vasseur has done his first big interview in charge at Ferrari and has made many points that a lot of Ferrari fans will be rather happy to hear, stating their reliability problems will be solved to the best of their knowledge going forward, and also outright suggesting their ambition is to win both titles this year, no more messing around. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. First of all, some updates from around the grid. Alfa Romeo are no longer called Alfa Romeo Orlen, they are now Alfa Romeo Team Stake as their title sponsor with Stake. Now, if you guys don't know about Stake, they're kind of like an online casino, crypto gambling type website. They've been involved in quite a lot of drama lately, really, because they own this new Twitch rivaling streaming website called Kick.tv, and there's been a bit of controversy going on there about, you know, certain owners in it and Stake's relationship and all this type of stuff. So lots of drama with Stake over the last couple of years, but you know, here we go, baby, into Formula 1. They've obviously got a lot of money and from various questionable sources, one could argue, but they're partnering up with Alfa Romeo as their new title partnership. Now, on the other side of things, Orlen, who used to be partnered with Alfa Romeo, are now going to go to AlphaTauri, and they're their principal partner. So not necessarily title sponsor, but principal partner. There's some questions because Orlen has been always associated for a few years with Robert Kubica. He had an outing, I believe, in Abu Dhabi FP, one of the free practice sessions in Abu Dhabi with Alfa Romeo. That might now spell an end of Kubica's kind of run in Formula 1, but yeah, that's a bit of swabberoo going on here. Orlen's gone to AlphaTauri, feels a bit strange, but the other Alpha has now got Team Stake as their sponsor, which is definitely causing some controversy already. Also, quickly to note on some of the teams, Aston Martin, Alonso, there he is, getting in the car, and obviously people are looking at this thinking, oh, okay, hang on a second, this is the new chassis, the new monocoque for the AMR23. Let's have a look into some detail and figure out if there's anything we can read into here. Craig Scubber reckons there is a few things suggesting where the cooling might be located, also going on to say the side pod inlet is not exactly Red Bullish in shape, but with an upper surface shorter than the lower surface, plus something in front of it. So kind of implying that what Aston Martin said a couple of days ago, that they've got loads of great new innovative ideas that they believe are going to work, might well be true with some of these things that people are noticing potentially being rather interesting. But of course, we'll see at their livery reveal or their actual car reveal on February the 13th, I think, exactly what's going on there. Also on the Red Bull side, they tweeted this out, which I've got to say is quite interesting. 2023, a blank canvas. Now, I'm more interested in the actual performance of the car rather than the livery, but nonetheless, people are hoping for something different, I think, from Red Bull this year. They just won both championships. It would be nice if they... I mean, look, I think the Red Bull livery is nice, but they never really do anything. It always looks pretty much the same. They could go some different color combinations or just a little bit different, right? And they actually tweet this out, a blank canvas. Now, probably they turn up to the livery reveal in only a few days, some at this point in early February, and it looks the same. But they're at least teasing that something's different happening here. They've got the bull on the back of the car, but the rest of the car is white. Of course, this is just like a spec model, not the actual design of the car they're going to be running with next year, but certainly implying that they're going to be taking a different approach to their livery design. Could they go for one of these like Honda livery special white designs they had in 2021? That would be nice to see. There are some other options. Maybe they could bring some purple in or something, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see if they actually change anything with their color combination for this upcoming season. Let's talk Ferrari then. Firstly, Binotto, of course, who's now left the job, confirming that after the French Grand Prix, they stopped working on the F175, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? Okay, the French Grand Prix for a lot of people was when the season was done for Ferrari because, you know, Leclerc just put it in the wall. The whole Sainz pit now while he was in a battle with, you know, whoever it was, Perez or something, drama that happened that race as well. And I mean, it was a double podium for Mercedes with Verstappen winning the race. So a bit of a disaster for Ferrari, but there was still a chance at that point that they salvaged something from their season. It was a couple of races later where the season was seemingly out of reach for them on both sides. But, you know, nonetheless, they were still competitive at that point. But apparently at that time, they decided, you know what, we've had enough of this. Let's focus on the 675. And this is the absolute classic Ferrari thing. Every year they tell us that, oh yeah, we knew that it wasn't going to work out. So we started focusing on next year. I don't think the 675 is going to be the name of the car. They're going to come up with a new name, but basically that's the code name for the new car at the present time. So classic Ferrari stuff. But this year, there does seem to be a little bit of a different attitude over there at Ferrari with Fred Vasseur joining. We know that Matteo Binotto would always say these things, oh yeah, the strategy isn't really an issue. I don't think we need to change personnel. Hungary wasn't really winnable regardless. Pole position doesn't really matter here. We're not really going for the championship anyway. Our only intention was to fight for, at least be competitive at it. It's like, you know, come on, man. You've got to say something with a bit of ambition. And Fred Vasseur seems to be that guy, as he says here. year, our reliability is now under control, and this was part of the full article. But the first comment I thought, is, if you guys are Ferrari fans, I'm sure you'll be happy to see this statement. I mean, it's such an obvious statement for a Ferrari team principal to make, but I mean, it's finally been said. When you're in a top team, you can't have any other target than to win. You can't start the season saying you'll be happy with P2. It would be a lack of ambition. We have everything we need to do a good job, and the target has to be to win. He goes on to say the following here: the objective is very clear. We have to win. There is no other option. Stating that, of course, Mercedes and Red Bull won't have the same goals. In the end, there can only be one winner. But look, I can't go into Ferrari, who finished second last year, and say the goal is to finish fifth. The objective is very clear, and that is absolutely 100% to win. Goes on to say this, though, about the reliability, because I think the key two things that held Ferrari back last season, it's not exactly a secret, the power unit issues and, of course, the strategy. And he addresses both of those here. First of all, suggesting that from their understanding, the issues with their power units have now been resolved. They are now under control going forwards. They had some issues on the battery deployment and the turbo, stuff like this, I think, and they've managed to resolve those from their understanding. He says, okay, we've got to wait until the start of the season to really see, just because even last year, right, they started out pretty well. It took a few races in when the engine started to wear where those issues really started to arrive. But also he discusses the strategy problem, stating that usually it's not an individual thing, but it's a group thing. He actually reckoned, I thought was quite interesting, that quite often what can happen here is when you've got too many people in the structure making the decisions, and not like potentially one or two people actually making the calls during a Grand Prix weekend, it's the system, it's the operations behind the strategy that have been causing them problems rather than the individuals themselves. Now, as the time goes on, he did say that, well, look, if it's still not working, he will be making personnel changes, but for now, he's going to keep the current people in place in charge of strategy, but try and change the system around which they actually make their decisions, which honestly does make sense as the first port of call to try and solve these problems. So firstly, on the power unit stuff, rumors are circulating that turning down their power unit costs about 0.2 seconds of lap time, which is very significant indeed. So the theory is that if they have their reliability problem solved, they can unlock pre-Baku levels of power unit power. Of course, Baku was a bit of a disaster for both Ferraris that weekend. Now, he did actually discuss the 30 horsepower boost, because we heard rumors circulating that this reliability problem that has now been solved apparently will unlock 30 brake horsepower of performance on the engine. That seemed a bit ambitious. Fred Vasseur says, I don't know where those numbers are coming from. It's a complete joke. So far looks okay, and says that what they've done is dealt with the reliability issues, and it's looking okay as it stands. And but obviously, as a consequence, that does allow you to unlock performance by running the engine at a high level, as we just discussed pre-Baku, where it was all going so well until a few disasters only a few races into the season. Now, just to discuss the strategy stuff in more detail, I'm trying to understand exactly what happened on every single mistake last year, and try to know if it is a matter of decision, of organisation, or of communication. Very often on the pit wall, the biggest issue is more the communication and the number of people involved than the individuals. If you put too many people discussing the same things, when you finally decide, the car will be on the next lap. And this does feel like an issue at Ferrari, where maybe they've got too many cooks in the kitchen to a certain extent. Obviously, every team has a lot of different strategy people analysing different elements of the race and conditions, and, this guy just went out on new tyres, and they were the hard tyre, how is he performing compared to the other lap times, all these type of questions. But at the end of the day, someone's going to make the call, right? If you guys have watched the really great video, which is, I think it's a breakdown on the Formula 1 channel, it's a behind-the-scenes video. I mean, Mercedes at the Spanish Grand Prix 2021 made the call to box Hamilton again and go for the two-stop, and just to hear the communication behind the scenes, they were discussing at the race, they were discussing with people back in Brackley, and then James Vowles made the call to be like, look, Toto, we're going to do this, and made the decision right then and there. Whereas Ferrari, it seems like at times there's a lot of people involved, and by the time they actually come to a decision, it's, no one's like fully on board with the same idea. What happened in Monaco, of course, even, what's happened in Silverstone, for example, or even that example we just mentioned at the French Grand Prix where Sainz was in the middle of a battle and they were asking him to pit. It's like, if the operational perspective was better, then maybe that problem is solved. So, I mean, look, first of all, Vasseur is admitting there's a strategy issue, which is more than Binotto did, right? Binotto would love to say, oh yeah, guys, it's just one of these things. Strategy isn't really a problem, I don't think. So hang on, mate, have a look at your team and how it's been going. So look, Vasseur admits the issues, and that is the first step to actually solving them. Whether this strategy is the best strategy to solve them, we'll see. But Vasseur also did say that, yeah, if it doesn't go well, and this idea to solve the strategic issues operationally and communicationally, or whatever, that's even a word, if that doesn't work, then it will come down to changing up personnel, which might still happen. But for now, he's taking a, still I think think, a relatively good approach. The other side of things is on the driver side, as he confirmed, I spoke to the drivers, they know they will be treated equally, which it was a confusing one last year because it was quite clear from early on after a couple of DNFs that Sainz had that Leclerc was going to be the key challenger, but yet decisions such as at Silverstone and even at Monaco either didn't favour Leclerc or certainly didn't give him any potential advantage, right, which felt like maybe the wrong decision at the time. And look, as Vasseur says, if at a certain point in the season one is much higher in the standings, we shall act accordingly, but there won't be a number one driver at the start, which is basically how Mercedes operate as well. Red Bull probably say they operate like that on the surface, but of course we know the reality is rather different, so he's not going to hesitate to take action if necessary, but the idea is to kind of let them race and then give it 5, 6, 7, 10 races and then see where the team is, how competitive the championship is, and whether they need to make strategic calls to benefit one teammate over another, which wouldn't really have helped them last season, all things considered, but it is something that I think a team like Ferrari has to at least consider because, you know, we know how Red Bull are going to operate when it comes to Max Verstappen versus Sergio Perez. If everyone's enjoyed your thoughts and all this in the comment section below, just thought I'd share this pretty funny image to close out the video here of course, Gunther Steiner and Matteo Binotto that I think it was a still from the upcoming Drive to Survive, which launches on, I think, the 24th or something of February during the first test, or the only test, in Bahrain on that weekend. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.